He's got some troubles, doesn't he, Tony, with the big announcement that he has made in our time travels, and he's got more to worry about now than the ratings trying to fill up a stadium.
Well, let's talk about it, Jim, and we're going to preview AEW All In London shortly, but I guess now we're talking about next year. AEW, while we have been recording, have had a press conference, and they put out this official press release I have here. For immediate release, Globe Life Field in Arlington to host AEW All In Texas 2025, the first AEW pay-per-view to ever be held in Texas.
Wow.
Is that a big deal now? Like everywhere you go, like this is the first pay-per-view in Des Moines. Is
no, because they've been in Arlington several times already, and they're going back for more with that residency. And
you have to wonder if one deal's not tied to the other at this point.
Well, and probably is. But here's the thing. Obviously, they realize they can't risk Wembley again, because what if they come back next year? First they did 80,000. Now this year they're going to do 50,000. If they came back next year and did 20,000, they'd look like fucking idiots. But he's trying to do something to kind of blunt or mute the idea that they're not going to do Wembley. They said, we're going to go back to London in 2026. To London. He didn't say Wembley. But yes, they may get a ton of publicity, and I'm sure they'll have every living Von Erich there. But the bloom is off the rose, because the reason Wembley last year was a phenomenon was for all the reasons we talked about. They announced it a year out. 2 years ago, they were in way better shape, but also in a country, a continent starved for big shows, big pay-per-views, big events because of the time difference, and Vince not wanting to do things like that, like the WWE hierarchy is now, going internationally. And even if they were, they got WWE house shows, but they'd never seen AEW. And Wembley Stadium, what they thought was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It was the perfect storm. Then this year, the folks in the UK are very, it's a word I'm searching for, understanding. When they buy tickets and the product is half of what it was last year when they bought all the fucking tickets, they're still going to, I'm sure, love it. But it's going down every time. The idea of coming to, they've not only had multiple pay-per-views from the United States, all of them, almost all of them, but they've also been in Texas a bunch of times. And the WWE's all over the place. This country is not starved for wrestling events. And you look at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The first year they ran it, they did 20,000 people, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, and then last year, 2023, last year, they did 11,263, according to our friend at WrestleNomics.
And I believe that was a surprise, right? Wasn't there a surprise big walk-up for that event?
Yes, because it wasn't looking that good. And now, this year on September 20th, so far they have distributed 3,548 tickets, but the building is set up for 4,800. They've set up a 20,000 seat stadium in New York for 4,800 people. What are they going to do with a 40,000 seat stadium in Dallas, Texas?
And again, by the time they return to London, wherever that may be in 2026, is the WWE going to have their deal with London? Because that's part of the story here. WWE, there were photos of Paul Levesque, Nick Khan, and the mayor of London. He was going after them. It wasn't the other way around. Arlington's going to have AEW. They already have this relationship. There'll be a series of events they announced around All In. You got to think they're going to use this esports arena again. And they do these events with the idea people are going to fly in. And that raises another problem in terms of who you have and what you're going to do. The diminishing returns aren't just because the wrestling's coming back, it's because of what the wrestling is from year to year. The booking, the talent, the TV show, the interest in any of the storylines that you're putting on your TV show. It's declined year by year as everything has gotten worse and worse. Where are things going to be next year? And who's Tony going to fill up that show with? You know, we were talking earlier about Vince's strategy of draining wrestling promoters of money. If you look at the classic wrestling wars of the past, and we did some comparisons to them way back in like the beginning of AEW. Look at what happened in Montreal in 72. Look at the Georgia Wrestling War.
Indianapolis in 74.
You know, Georgia got to a point, and Gunkel, where she couldn't get any more talent. And the fans had taken to one side more than the other. Tony has a very similar problem now with talent. He doesn't have to worry about running out of money like Aunt Gunkel did. But he has to worry about the talent he's going to have a year from now on that show. And the other thing is, for appearance's sake, we've seen year by year declines in attendance, and at times it's glaring. Where are things going to be next year? A year from then? I know you got to announce things in advance and everything, obviously, and you got to try to make things better, but you're not going to be able to make them better if Tony's running creative. Where's that TV show going to be in 1 year? And also, this stadium show they're announcing, July 12th. Correct me if I'm wrong, unless they're not going to do Forbidden Door, and they probably shouldn't, because every year Forbidden Door eats up like 2 months of TV where it kills the ratings.
Hey, that goddamn door is like a Waffle House. It's never even locked anymore.
But that's like the worst TV usually of the entire year, the build up to Forbidden Door, where people just randomly start showing up on the show and the viewers start tuning out. That's going to be right before the build up to this event. So there's a lot of questions. It's very ambitious. You know, if AEW had booked this 4 years ago, we'd be having a different conversation right now. But it's the state of AEW right now. And if you look at the talent today that was there 4 years ago, almost no one means as much now as they meant then.
Well, and it's part of a pattern that Tony has had time at this point to correct. In that the reason why that their crowds at TV look like piss holes in a snowbank is because they're running giant buildings that they can't put people in. And we've been talking about it for months and months and months. Yes, you have to book arenas way in advance, but goddamn, a year and a half at this point. One more statistic, and we'll talk about his upcoming.
Well, you heard, the rumor that came out like a day or two before this announcement, that it may still be coming because Tony has indicated he has a series of big announcements to come, is that AEW may be running a stadium in Australia, which
I didn't know they had a stadium in Australia.
It could go either way. It could be a rabid fan base that just wants wrestling in a stadium in Australia, or it could be a complete disaster. So that'll be very interesting.
What is the major population center in Australia?
Oh, I'm not an expert in Australian.
Well, I mean, would be Melbourne?
City.
Would that be?
I would think that would be one of them, if not the one, yes.
So how many people, Google, how many people in Melbourne, Australia?
Hold on.
Because it ain't easy, even like in the United Kingdom, you can come over from Scotland and France and Germany and Ireland and all those, they're all right there. There's no such thing as driving a long distance in the United Kingdom.
Melbourne's population is 5.2 million. It's number 2 behind Sydney.
Sydney. Forgot about Sid.
5.4.
So they've got stadiums.
Yeah.
The question is,
they've got rugby.
Do they have enough people in the country of Australia, and what is the television exposure for AEW like, that they would draw 20 or 30,000 people to a stadium event to make it look respectable? There's people there, but are they motivated?
Despite the realities of AEW, Tony never gives in to reality. every statement he gives, everything is great, everything's positive, it's the best they've ever done. That's not just to the public, that's to everyone. Is there a chance, considering what WWE's doing, certainly not for that amount of money, but could AEW be swept into that wave of, on a smaller scale, being able to get money from cities and towns and states, whatever it may be, countries, Australia, to run these shows like a sold show?
Well, now, sooner or later, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. I'm not going to say it's not possible. It's not impossible for them to get money from a tourism or whatever, but you would have to think that would be a state or a city or a municipality or whatever that was not doing their due diligence and looking at, oh yeah, they drew 50,000 people in Wembley Stadium, but they drew 2,200 people in New York City or whatever. It's not a sure thing with AEW that there's going to be a mass turnout in a stadium. Because here's the other statistic that I was going to tell you. Rupp Arena, Lexington, Kentucky, on September 11th, they have distributed 1,385 tickets. Now, that is 4 weeks away, or approximately. However, they've set the building up for 3,300 people. And I believe that we have mentioned before that Rupp Arena holds 23,000 for basketball. So why are you running a 23,000 seat arena if you're setting it up for 3,300 and can't fill that? And the last time they ran it last August, they drew 3,200 people. Don't run Lexington. I mean, what the fuck is going on here?
I don't know. And again, it's tough to see the road to turning things around as things are currently situated at AEW.